France will summon the United States ambassador to Paris following comments made by American officials over the killing of a French far-right activist. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has said that Ambassador Charles Kushner could be called in after statements from the US Embassy and the State Department's Bureau of Counterparty Racism. The remarks came after Quentin Deranque, a young far-right activist, was beaten to death in Lyon during a violent altercation involving alleged hard-left activists. The incident was drawn national attention in France. Meanwhile, the US Embassy and the Bureau of Counterparty says that they are monitoring the case and warned that the violent radical leftism was on the rise, describing it as a public safety concern. We are now being rejoined by Dan Perry. Thank you for joining us back here on NewsX World. In what ways has this fatal beating of the activist in Lyon, involving clashes between far-right and alleged hard-left groups, deepened political divisions within France and influence international reactions?
It clearly reflects increasing not just divisions, but passions and anger in France. And obviously the death of Deranque is a tragedy and a very bad sign. It factors in to the bigger cultural wars being promoted by the U.S. administration. They're going to clearly compare it to the assassination of Charlie Kirk in the fall. I don't think Deranque had the same stature as Charlie Kirk among the far right, but the narrative sort of holds. And remember, Charlie Kirk was elevated to the status of like a major national figure, and they wanted to name national days after him, and basically to use his killing to inflame passions among the MAGA base, basically. So the United States finds itself currently in a cultural war of sorts with that part of the European establishment, which I think is dominant, that is fundamentally liberal, not in the American sense, but in the European sense, liberal democracies that respect minority rights and want separation of powers and don't want authoritarian government. Trump clearly is dragging America away from liberal democracy, and that is at the core of hostile appearances at the Munich Security Conference, be it by J.D. Vance last year, or to a lesser degree, but still the same message, by Marco Rubio last week, claiming that Europe is walking away from Western civilizational values like free speech because Europe attempts to limit the free speech of neo-Nazis, and Europe is, because of its fascistic past, is quite concerned with far-right agitation. America's picking a fight with Europe in this regard, and because of this, the death we saw in France is sort of a convenient, tragic as it is, a convenient lever for them to use against France, claiming, obviously, that they're giving the far left, in this case the Insoumise party, too much leeway, and probably seeking to exaggerate the degree to which the far left in France is the source of the anger, because realistically it's the far right that's stirring the pot all across the continent, much more so than the far left, which is not to say that the far left in France in particular does not do a lot of damage to the cause of global liberalism in itself, which they most certainly do. So we have an ugly situation in France. France is polarized between three blocks, basically the far left, the Macron-led center, and the far right, which is starting to look like more of a mainstream right, because they do have about a third support.
Really sorry, Dan, but we're going to have to interrupt you there as we've just come in with some breaking news. The